Well, thanks again to Benjamin Albright for joining us here on BuffaloPlus.com. And Ben, I know we talk a lot about Bills over, whether it's text messaging and stuff like that. What has your reaction been to the Bills offseason so far?
I think they continued to build toward a championship contender. I thought this team was on the right trajectory for the last couple of years. They put together that great defense. They started to put together a great offense. Last year, you saw a quarterback who was in year two that was developing, but you didn't have the receivers they need. A lot of those little quick pinball guys, no real big man on the outside. And we know that they went down there to Clemson and they were eyeballing maybe a T. Higgins in the draft, but they came away from that pro day unimpressed. They recognized that it's going to take a rookie wide receiver a couple of years to get there. And they said, we're in our window now. Let's make this bold move. Let's go trade for Stefon Diggs, bring him in, and we'll have that talent on the outside that we've been looking for. And I think the Buffalo Bills are right for the division. And honestly, I think they're a contender this year.
Wow, that is a lot right there. I know Bills Mafia loves hearing something like that. But what do you make of this season for Josh Allen? We saw him improve from year one to year two. Now a lot of people are calling this, the breakout year for him. What do you make of Josh, and what do you think he needs to improve on, and what have you been impressed with as well?
Well, he needs to be more consistent down the field. He's still got some accuracy issues at times. He's got to be more consistent with that. I remember last year, of course, me covering the Broncos, I saw the Denver game where he just airmailed that pass to Justin Simmons, out of nowhere. He's got to rein that stuff in. And that's been a problem for Josh since I got to see him when he was out here at Wyoming. But I will say this, Josh has played a lot better at the pro level than I thought he would. And that's got to give you optimism and hope. And he did make big strides from year one to year two. So there's no reason to think that he can't continue to do that from year two to year three. If he can just learn to be a little more consistent, and when he buys time with those legs, keep his eyes up and down field, because he's got receivers that are fast enough to get open down there and a big enough arm to get it to him. If he can do that, they're going to be in a lot of explosive plays on the field for the Bills this year, and I think that'll really help him out.
Dan, if you don't mind, I just have a question. I'm sorry to cut in, but where have you seen Josh improve the most? You watched him in college at Wyoming. Where have you seen him really progress in his years as a pro?
Getting off that first receiver, getting to the second read. He used to kind of dial it in on one guy, and then if that wasn't there, he used to take off with his legs at Wyoming quite a bit. He's gotten better about having quick eyes. Hey, the first pressure isn't there. Let me get to the second guy. Okay, he's not there. All right, now I'm going to take off and utilize this dynamic athleticism that I have. And that's really been the surprise to me, because not a lot of quarterbacks do that. Quarterbacks who are slow readers tend to stay slow readers. And so for Josh to be able to do that, I think that's big.
Going back a little bit, it's off of Josh, but two-part question. One, were you surprised by the move by Brandon Beane to go get Stefon Diggs? And two, how much does he change this Bills offense? Even though, he's not a huge guy, but I still think, maybe he's that deep threat. How does he change this offense?
Well, and he could be a contested catch guy on the outside, and that was really the thing. You guys just didn't have outside receivers. Guys like Cole Beasley and Isaiah McKenzie and Brown. Brown has kind of become an outside receiver, but he's slight in his stature and more known as a burner, kind of roll the coverage guy. Diggs gives you a guy that can work you underneath. He's physical. He boxes out with the body. You double team him. He's a contested catch guy. And so, he gives you that physical threat that I guess the Bills have really kind of lacked at the receiver position. I thought it was a great move to go get him. You and I talked offline a little bit, Dan, and we talked about the T. Higgins thing, and we knew there was interest there. But the problem is, and I touched on this earlier with receivers, it generally takes until year two to kind of get it in the NFL. And
right.
The Bills feel like they're in their window now. They want to maximize that. So I think it's a smart move by Beane to say, you know what, I could spend a first rounder on a wide receiver. Yeah, we're going to have him on a cheaper contract, but it's going to take him a while to get there. Or we can get the established product, bring him in. It's going to cost us a little more, but it keeps us in that window a lot quicker.
I guess then going off of that, the Bills trading away that first round pick amongst others to get Stefon Diggs. Do you see them making a play to try and get back into the first round later this month? Or do you think they're really just looking towards round two and their other picks?
I think it's possible. You guys have enough picks that you could package them and move up. Not all those picks, to be honest with you, the Bills roster is pretty stacked. And so not all those draft picks are going to make the roster. And if you know that ahead of time, then what are you doing drafting guys aren't going to make your team? Package those picks, move up, and go get better quality players if you see the opportunity to do so. So, yes, I would expect the Bills to be trading up.
Wow. How surprised were you when you heard that Tom Brady was leaving?
That's a good question. Part of me was surprised. I mean, like part of me was, part of me had that, no, Tom Brady's not leaving, surprise thing going on. And then part of me is like, I go back and I look at all the greats over time. Peyton Manning left the team. Now that was different because of injury, but Joe Montana at the end for Kansas City. Who would ever thought you'd see Brett Favre in the New York Jets and the Minnesota Vikings?
Right.
The list goes on and on. You can go back and look. Even Steve Young thought about coming out to the Broncos at the end, and his wife vetoed that, said he had too many concussions. So the guys at the end, they oftentimes they try to switch teams. So with Tom Brady's case, I think it was several-fold. One, you've got two legends, a coaching great, an all-time quarterback great that want to see if they can do it apart from each other. Tom is still trying to chase Drew Brees for all those legacy career passing marks. That's really kind of his thing. But neither one of them will admit that publicly, but privately, both of them are obsessed with it. So, you've got an opportunity to go to an offense that's going to sling the ball around the yard with Bruce Arians. You kind of got to take that.
I mean, how much, in your opinion, does Brady leaving open up the AFC East?
Well, I mean, yeah, Jarrett Stidham is not Tom Brady, and I don't think the Patriots are. I don't think the Patriots are the strongest team on paper right now in that division. I think it's Buffalo. You just got to capitalize. And a lot of times getting over that mental hurdle can be something. I want to see Buffalo get over that mental hurdle and be the team in the division. But there's certainly an opportunity there. I think it's wide open. Without Tom Brady, without an all-time great quarterback there, I think that division is ripe for the taking.
I think that, obviously there's so much influx with this division. Like, I've liked what Sam Darnold has done at times. I like a lot of the moves that Miami has made. I think they overachieved last year. In this first year, they went from tanking to, winning some games down the stretch. What have you heard or interesting that if Miami's in a play for Tua, or if they're in a move to get Joe Burrow, how much could that change their franchise as we look at this AFC East being up for the taking?
Well, I think it continues to put them on a positive trajectory. But if you look at that roster, Miami's not in any danger of accidentally competing for a Super Bowl this year. I love what they did in free agency. And I love the fact that they were playing hard down the stretch last year for Brian Flores. That's a team that he looks like he's going to be a legit coach down there for a long time. I think in 2 years, you're probably looking at that saying, okay, we got to take them seriously. I don't think this year, you got to take everything in the NFL seriously, but I don't think that this year is really a contender year for Miami. I think that it's another growing year. Last year, they kind of gutted the roster, bottomed out, fought into the culture, and now they're trying to rebound. And typically those rebounds take 2 to 3 years.
And just going off that, I saw you tweet the other day that people are higher on Tua and lower on, or executives are lower on Joe Burrow. Was that something you were saying?
No, it was higher on Herbert and,
and
lower on Tua than perhaps the fans and media kind of are. And that's not every team, but by and large, that was kind of the opinion. A lot of the execs out there kind of feel like that Herbert is another Josh Allen, maybe even a little more polished coming out. In terms of what he brings to the table, where Tua, has been hurt every year, played with an incredible supporting cast at Alabama. Saw somebody was floating a graphic today, and they're like, "Oh, Tua was so special." And then I go back and look at this play, and Tua had 7 seconds to throw the ball, literal 7 seconds. I'm not being hyperbolic. 7 seconds to throw the football, and was late in getting the ball to Henry Ruggs, who was wide open down the field. And I'm like, man, that's not special quarterback play. That's insane blocking, throwing to the fastest wide receiver in football. So
not too tough.
Not really. I could have put up touchdowns in that Alabama offense.
All right, looking at the division then in terms of the AFC East. Jarrett Stidham, obviously, in New England, Brian Hoyer. Do you think the Patriots will make a play to get a guy like a Jameis Winston or a Cam Newton or anything like that, knowing that the season is, hopefully fast approaching?
I don't think so. They reached out and they got Cam's medicals, and they kind of, inquired around a little bit. I think it's more due diligence than anything else. I don't think they're going to right now. Maybe that changes, but at this moment, I think they're kind of ride or die with Stidham and Hoyer. And the plan for that is, if Stidham is the guy, then he's the guy, and we don't have to do anything. And if he's not the guy, then we have a miserable season. We're right there for Trevor Lawrence, and we start over. So I think that's kind of their outlook on it.
Looking back at the draft, I thought it was really interesting. You talked about how because the Bills roster is pretty stacked and there's not a glaring hole, that they can move pieces around to try and get back up in the first round or to move around. Where are, a lot of people, I think we did a poll on Buffalo Plus, a lot of fans want an edge rusher. Is there a guy in that 50, maybe 40 to 55 range of that, early second round that could be a steal if they're available for the Bills?
The kid out of Iowa, his draft stock for whatever reason hadn't really taken off. AJ Epinesa. He's a guy that I think could kind of fit what they're trying to do, and he may slip to that portion. I would say that if I were betting on it, I wouldn't bet on him being there, but it's entirely possible. He would be a guy that I would definitely have my eye on. He's got an incredible size. Needs some refinement to his game, but a little bit, but he would be a great fit.
Jumping off the point that this roster is different than it has been in a lot of years for this Bills team, so much talent. What do you now make as the biggest need now heading into the draft and later on into free agency for Buffalo?
Biggest need. That's a good question. I'd like to see them get another running back that you could pair 1-2 and have a career punch there. I think they've kind of made do with like a committee kind of deal, and you obviously got the young kid there that's very good. But I'd like to see them get somebody who's just a battering ram. I'd love to see Buffalo wind up with like AJ Dillon out of Boston College. He's kind of like Derrick Henry a little bit, big guy, massive guy, would just mow you over. And that kind of power with that offensive line and a big guy like Allen and that kind of power coming downhill with you, that's just tough. As a defense, it takes some of the wind out of your sails before you get on the field. When you look how big that I got to tackle that guy all day. So it's it just takes a little bit out of you.
I have one more question. With everything so up in the air right now, just in terms of, everything going on with coronavirus and the concerns with that, how huge is it for you to think that this Bills team has so much stability in head coach, in GM, in offensive and defensive coordinators, in offensive line, in Josh Allen? How huge is that for a team like the Bills?
I think it's huge for any team that's got that much stability and that much in those leadership roles, because those guys aren't trying to ad hoc something together. They're not trying to get guys that they don't know to buy into what they're doing via Zoom. So it's it can be a little bit tougher if you're not in person with somebody, especially something like that. In football, you're asking guys to put their bodies on the line every game. You're asking a dude to go through 50, 60 car crashes in a game for you. And so having that in-person connection and having that in-person, hey, I'm asking you to do this, believe in me, is a lot easier to do than doing it with a phone call or a video chat. So I think that's a good point. Having that kind of stability and that kind of leadership in place helps get guys to buy in. And, you get the veterans to reach out to the young guys going to be joining your team and get them in the culture, get them in the program, and makes it a lot easier.
This whole thing is so up in the air. Obviously we always talk about how the NFL season, you can never predict it. We're just kind of hoping that we have an NFL season, I think, to look forward to in 2020. So Benjamin Albright, thank you so much for joining us. Always appreciate your opinion, and make sure to keep watching here on BuffaloPlus.com. Ben, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it. That was awesome.
Oh, no problem at all. I'm happy to do it. I'm sorry I had the bag under my eyes, so I put the glasses on.
I like them.
You're all good. I like those. Are those blue light?
Yeah, they're scrollers. So.
Nice. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, and stay safe, man. I hope family and everything's doing well out there, man.
Yeah, doing well, man. You and yours, and hope everything's good. And we'll have to we'll chat here soon.
Right.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
We got time.
Going nowhere.
I really appreciate it, Ben. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks.